Good morning. Welcome to Pod Up Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security Systems Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Shane Matthews here. Real quick before we get to our first guest, I want to bring up some news and notes. Yesterday, we want to appreciate Billy Donovan joining the show and Jackie Spreads, who is his uncle, doing a tremendous job with that interview. Also, yesterday, Coach Spurrier turned 75 years old, and a lot of media outlets did some tremendous writings on him, and just some of the it was just great. There's nobody like Coach Spurrier in the world of sports, and it was great to see. But we're going to go to our first guest here on the Titan MR hotline, and it's Matt Murshel. He's a national college football writer from the Orlando Sentinel. He's going to join us on the Titan MR hotline. Matt, good morning. How are you?
Pretty good. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing all right. Did you see all those tributes to the HBC yesterday?
Yeah, I did actually. We talked a little bit about it in our staff meeting. Mike Bianchi, our columnist, wrote a nice column about it, and it's always great when Coach Spurrier has been one of my favorites to cover over the years down here in Florida. So it's great to see everyone have a tribute and a story and remember something special about his time, as a head coach at Florida and elsewhere.
Yeah, he's a piece of work. There's nobody like him for sure. Matt, you cover a lot of college football. Is it good news with some of the states like Georgia? A couple other ones are kind of reopening restaurants and stuff, I believe, on Friday. Is that good news for college football?
Yeah, I think it is. And in the long term, I think there's still a cautious optimism, among the coaches and ADs I speak with. The biggest concern outside of obviously health and safety for the players and coaches is, kind of having some sort of a date that everyone can start at the same time. They want to make sure that there's a fair way of getting started, that you don't have, like you mentioned, you don't have maybe Georgia and, another state starting or another school starting up, maybe a possible summer camp or spring camp, without other schools being able to do that. But having some of these, states opening up, starting to maybe move towards that area, I think eventually it's going to hopefully get to a point where we're talking about football being a lot sooner than later.
Yeah, I saw yesterday where obviously Syracuse, I think Jim Boeheim and Dino Babers, their football coach, have agreed to take some pay cuts. I also saw where Louisville has cut their athletic budget and furloughed a lot of people. Do you see that happening with a lot of athletic programs throughout the country?
I think so in some cases. I think, depending on how the financial status of some of these, athletic departments are at, they may have to make those moves. I spoke with a couple of people about, the idea of furloughing or, getting rid of employees. And, the athletic directors don't want to do that if they can help it. They really want to try to find ways to make the budget work. But in some cases, it may not happen. You may be struggling on a thin line to begin with, and this kind of maybe pushes you over the edge. The hope is that once we get through this other side of this, and then eventually we're getting back to some sense of normalcy, that maybe that can, things can kind of get back to, some sense of normal. But I think, there's so many of these athletic departments right now. They're just trying to figure out what's the next step. What happens if football doesn't start on time? What happens if we're talking about playing football in January and February instead of in July and August? And in some cases, you're seeing schools like Cincinnati, for instance, last week, cutting non-revenue generating sport like, men's soccer. And you could see more of that, as athletic directors really kind of balance that, really that budget and trying to make sure they can make ends meet. I was told yesterday by an athletic director here in the state that if we don't have football, it would be catastrophic. And it would be, it would be something that basically they wouldn't be able to recover from for quite some time. So I think everyone's on the same page. They want to get football going, but, they just need to know when and where, and they need to get the okay to start doing it.
We're speaking with Matt Murshel on the Titan MR hotline. He's the national college football writer for the Orlando Sentinel. You can follow him on Twitter at OS Matt Murshel. Yeah, speaking of college football, I've heard some people talk about, with the season probably not going to start on time, maybe shortening the season, playing just conference games, which I understand that from the standpoint of the big schools, the Power Fives. But, like South Alabama, Matt, is scheduled to play in the Swamp this year. If South Alabama, those type programs don't get that big payday, it's going to be hard for them to maintain football. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, very much so. I mean, there are a lot of these schools. I mean, playing a Power Five school on their schedule is the big payday for their athletic budgets for the year. That's why some of these schools play, 2 or 3 Power Five games to try to help, basically maximize their budget and help them out. So if they don't have those games, it's just as catastrophic. I think, that's one kind of plan that's been talked about. I've talked to someone who said that, they would love to get, the full schedule, and if they can, again, the more home games you can have, the better situation it is for your athletic department, because again, that's a lot of money that can be generated. Who knows? In Florida's case, it could be anywhere from $15 to $20 million a game, maybe more, based on tickets and concession sales and things like that. So I know the idea of playing a conference only schedule seems, like maybe a good idea, but think about some of these other programs like Notre Dame, for instance, BYU, the independents that don't have a conference. They can't not, they don't have a conference to play in. So they have to find a way to get games. So they're going to have to find a way to kind of make sure that doesn't happen. So I think everyone's on board to try to figure out what they can do with the schedule. It may need changing up some games in the sense of going on the road as much, maybe be more regionalized games. I think everything is on the table right now. What I've heard from a lot of people is everything's on board. There's nothing that can be, tossed away or thought to be ridiculous. Everyone's trying to figure out a way to get football played sometime this year.
Absolutely. Matt, you like I said, you follow college football and cover it year round. Let's just say we do go and we play on time or whenever we play. Give me your thoughts on the Florida Gators. A lot of people think with what they have coming back, with the schedule in place, that they could be possibly now making that 4-team playoff. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think so. I think this was a year that I had Florida, really kind of having the chance to upset Georgia and get to the SEC championship and possibly get to the playoff. I mean, you look at what they did last year. You look at the growth that Kyle Trask made at quarterback. You felt like the offense maybe was really starting to hit its stride. Going into that bowl game, we saw what they did against Virginia. The defense is obviously going to have its playmakers. They're going to have to replace some guys. But again, the job that Dan Mullen has done recruiting wise, getting guys in there, I think this is the year that I think this Florida team can make a really big push, especially when you look at Georgia's case. They lost some talent. They don't have Jake Fromm anymore. They've got a guy in Jamie Newman who comes over from Wake Forest, but it's not a given that he's going to be the guy. And, they've got some uncertainty at that quarterback position. They lost some talent at running back. Defense is going to be a little thin at spots. So to me, this is the perfect opportunity for Florida to make a statement and try to win the SEC and possibly the SEC East and possibly get in there and compete. And then you look on the West side, and I think it's even more of a up in the air. Alabama obviously has questions at quarterback. LSU's lost almost the entire roster from last year. Auburn has questions. I mean, this is a good time if you're Florida to be, trending upwards, because I think would be a chance maybe to win the SEC and get into that, a playoff race.
We're speaking with Matt Murshel from the Orlando Sentinel. In the second half of our show today, we'll be joined by former Gator Wayne Fields. Matt, jumping over to the draft, I've never been one who really follows the NFL draft or really cares to watch. But gosh, with no sports, I'm excited to turn on the TV on Thursday night. It's going to be strange, too, the way they're going to do this draft. Looking at the Gators, obviously C.J. Henderson is going to be a first-round pick. How soon do you think he may go?
I wouldn't be shocked to see him, mid first round. I mean, again, the amount of talent that he put on and he's demonstrated. I mean, I think defensive players too are a commodity that teams really like to zero in on early on if they feel like there's a guy who can make an impact, a guy who can really, do that. And I think C.J. Henderson could do that. He's proven that, the SEC is known for producing talent. And then I think that's the attractive option for NFL GMs and scouts is to get some of these guys. And I think he's got the size and the ability to go after guys in the defensive, secondary. So I think he would be a very attractive option mid first round, maybe a little bit later. But, I think, again, as we've talked about year in, year out, it seems like the Gators are going to have, could have a handful of players that could go in the first, 2 or 3 rounds, depending on how things go.
Yeah, speaking of on the defensive side of the ball, obviously we had 2 defensive linemen last year. John Kernard, the transfer, had a phenomenal year. And a lot of people expected big things from Zuniga, but he was injured quite a bit. I think he's a sleeper in this draft, honestly. I don't know where he's projected to go. I know a lot of people don't really know much about him because he didn't play a lot last year, but the guy can rush the passer. If you can rush the passer, you can play a long time on Sundays.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think I'm with you. I think Zuniga's one of those kind of X factor. You're not sure where he's going to land, but he's to me like a project. A guy that I think an NFL team would take just for the idea of let's throw him in there and see what can happen. A guy who's got size. He's got some speed. Again, he was banged up a little bit, didn't miss some time, but a guy that if you get him healthy and you put him out there, he can do some things. And I think that's what NFL scouts love. That's what GMs love, is to get these kind of guys, and then you put them in your system and you see if they kind of excel and take off. The fact that he was banged up, he may not go, that may drop him a little bit, but he could be a steal from somebody. Again, a talented guy. As you mentioned, Grenard was, again, another guy who was a force, especially late in the season at times, and someone I think that, if you're looking to get a frontline pass rusher, a guy you definitely want to make a move for.
Offensively, the Gators, two guys that could get their name called sometime this weekend. Van Jefferson, who I think is a tremendous route runner. Obviously, his dad was a longtime pro. I think he has a chance to go, I'm not sure where, but I think he's a guy that can last a while in the NFL. And then Michael Pirine is an interesting guy to me because the way the running back position has changed in the National Football League, he's such a great receiver out of the backfield. Do you see him possibly getting drafted maybe on day 2 or day 3?
Yeah, I think he's more of a day 2, day 3 type of guy. I mean, again, I agree with you. I think the running back position has changed so much. So, they want guys who are not only can carry the football, but have the ability to make plays out of the backfield, who can pass block well. We're seeing the NFL game kind of change a little bit. And he's a guy that definitely could help out there as well. Van Jefferson's a guy, again, a talented playmaker, but I'll say this, I think this is a really deep wide receiver class this year. So he's going to be going up against some guys right now, the CeeDee Lambs and Jerry Jeudy's that, I think it's going to be such an abundance of players there, but he's a guy that definitely will be playing on Sunday. So both those two guys I can see going, it may be a little later in the draft, but again, guys who can provide a boost to a team that's looking for maybe some offensive type playmakers.
Looking at the draft of the quarterback position is one that gets all the attention. Obviously, I think everybody thinks Joe Burrow will be the first pick to the Bengals. Lately, though, there's been a lot of talk about Tua maybe dropping because of his Wonderlic score or something like that. But also there's questions about his health. Do you think Tua will be the second quarterback taken, or do you think Justin Herbert may pop in there somewhere?
I wouldn't be shocked to see Justin Herbert get picked. Get picked before Tua. I think there's some concerns with Tua in the sense of his, there's been talk about his frailty. The fact that he broke. I mean, listen, that Tua was outstanding in his time at Alabama, and I think if he doesn't get hurt, I think he could be right there as the number 1 pick. But I think Justin Herbert did a great job of coming back. Has really kind of helped his cause. Did well at the combine. I think there's some teams that are interested in him. But Tua is an attractive option, and there's going to be a lot of teams right now that are looking at quarterback. You're hearing the Chargers, definitely the Dolphins. Maybe the Giants are even maybe throwing around the idea of getting a quarterback. So I think those 3 guys are going to go within the first maybe 15, 16 picks, no matter what. Because again, they demonstrate the ability there. With Tua, maybe he goes somewhere where he doesn't have to step in and lead a team right away. Maybe he can go somewhere where he can be the number 2 guy for a year, get healthy, get back to where he needs to be and see what happens. Again, Wonderlic scores. I know that's a thing that people love to point out. I'm not as nearly as enamored with that. I think it's always going to be the tape. I think every player and every scout will tell you it's always going to be what's on the tape and what they can do when it comes to reading defenses. If a kid can read the defense and he knows where to put the ball when there's trouble and when there's not trouble, I think that's what a scout will probably go after. So all 3 of those guys are going to be there, believe me. Joe Burrow is an amazing story, by the way, not to ramble, but I mean, a guy who last year probably wouldn't even be considered a first-round pick really kind of elevated his game, and I think it's a guy now who's got a chance to really lead a team like Cincinnati maybe to a good start next year.
Yeah, I agree. The Joe Burrow story is unbelievable, and I've never seen a quarterback play the way he did last year. A couple last things back to college football, Matt. Um, how far behind is Florida State and Miami right now behind the Gators in their program?
I would say, they're probably, I want to say maybe 2 years behind, maybe a year and a half. I mean, I thought Willie Taggart could have had success at Florida State. I felt like he's a guy that's been known for, coming in and turning programs around. I think I'm one of those believers in what I saw from on that program was I don't think Jimbo Fisher left that program in a very good shape. I think people tend to think that Jimbo left it in great shape. They weren't in good shape. They didn't do a very good job recruiting the last year he was there. Willie tried to get that up. I think Mike Norvell is a good hire for them. I think he's a guy that can definitely turn some things around. But his biggest challenge is going to be convincing the fans to come aboard and return to the games, and convincing the players to come to Florida State. Now that Florida's having success, and I think that's going to be difficult for them. In the case of Miami, I think everyone thought that Manny was going to turn things around instantly, and there was a lot of enthusiasm there. And last year they didn't have they didn't play as well as they should have. They looked disorganized, and that's something you hate to see. Hopefully, you think a guy. I mean, De'Aaron King. I've seen him play with his time in the American at Houston. He's a definite big time playmaker. They got a new offensive coordinator, Rhett Lachey. I mean, there's a possibility that Miami can make a big push. But again, if they don't, I'm not sure how long they stick with Manny, because again, that's a situation where fans are rabid to try to return. So the more success Florida has, the worse off it is, as you know, for Florida State and Miami, because if you're not right up there, then eventually ADs get nervous and they want to make moves quickly. So I would say they're maybe 2 years behind Florida at this point.
What is the status of McKenzie Milton?
McKenzie Milton's working out still. He's in fact, before we got spring got abruptly canceled, he was out on the practice field doing some light workouts, throwing the ball a little bit around. They just moved him to a new knee brace. He's been, just working nonstop to try to get back on the field. He believes at some point, last night we spoke with him, was 3 or 4 months ago. He believes that he's going to try to go back and play football. And if he does, if he steps on a football field, I mean, it would be miraculous. I mean, because that injury was catastrophic. And when you have doctors and people tell you that they were, close to cutting his leg off and amputating, I mean, it's just incredible to think where he's at now. The fact that he can walk, and he told us he had a doctor tell him, if you could just walk normally, that would be a win. That's the biggest win for us. So the idea that he's going to be able to run and play is going to be a challenge. Now, and again, he's got a 6-year eligibility he can use, obviously with his injury. I don't know if it'll be this year that we see him on the football field. It may be next year. But again, the moment he steps on the field, it's going to be an amazing sight if that ever happens.
Matt, let everybody know where they can check your stuff out.
Yeah, you can go to OrlandoSentinel.com and read all our sports stories, or follow me on Twitter at OS Matt Murshel. And we've got, despite everything going on, we're still talking sports. We're trying to still talk as much college football as we can, and hopefully we'll get back to playing some soon.
Matt, I appreciate you joining the program. Be safe down there, buddy.
All right, thanks. You too, guys.
All right, that's Matt Murshel from the Orlando Sentinel. Join us on the Titan MR hotline. We're going to get now to our This Day in Sports, which is brought to you by Area Rug Masters. Is your whole family stuck at home and tracking in more than usual? Take your rugs to Area Rug Masters for a BOGO rug cleaning when you mention the code Shane. Call 352-448-5999. This Day in Sports, back in 1996, the Chicago Bulls win the NBA record 72nd game. And I'm sure a lot of people saw The Last Dance, the first couple of episodes this past weekend. Michael Jordan, which was outstanding. So that is This Day in Sports. Chicago Bulls win their 72nd game. We're going to take our first time out of the program. And when we come back, we're going to be joined by Wayne Fields, former Gator, talking about what he's doing now. You're listening and watching to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll be right back.
Time out! Time out! Hey! Time out! Time out! Time out! There we go. Good.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills.
Let's give them something to cheer for now.
Our Gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security, small enough to serve you, large enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Peachland Dentistry, Gator Nation's #1 choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte and surrounding areas. Area Rug Masters, your #1 choice for rug cleaning. And Pound Hurt, preferred personal injury attorneys.
Our touchdown sponsors are Gator BTW, Campus USA Credit Union, Celebration Point Town Center, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, The Keys Grill and Piano Bar, UF Mover Guys, The Digital Mortgage Guy, Adams Ribs, Cloud9 Spa, Coldstone Creamery, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Center State Bank.
If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, you can visit our website, potupwithshane.com, and click on the Advertise button or call Freddie Wiebe at 352-284-3733.
Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
He's looking, still looking. He's going for the end zone.
Is he on the line? Welcome back to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Celebration Point is where the Gators come to celebrate with premium brands like Bass Pro Shop, Palmetto Moon, Skechers, Starbucks, The Keys Grill and Piano Bar, Select Shades, Regal Cinemas, and coming soon, HBC's new restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. We will see you at Celebration Point where the Gators come to celebrate. Again, we want to thank Matt Murshel from the Orlando Sentinel for joining us. Now we're going to go to the Titan MRI hotline, and we're joined by former Gator Wayne Fields. Wayne, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing quite well, Shane. I'm just very happy to be here. I actually slept right up to about 8:05, but other than that, I'm glorious and happy just to, first of all, be able to be on your show.
Well, we appreciate it. Hope you and your family are doing well during this time. Wayne, let everybody know, I like to, maybe it's not the appropriate way to say it, but you're our first, quote, old-time Gator on my show, and we're fortunate to have you. But let everybody know about who is Wayne Fields.
Well, first of all, let me give thanks to God because I'm truly a born-again Christian. So that's the first person that I am. And past that, I'm a father, a husband, a businessman here in Gainesville, Florida, and I operate every day with the theme of just work as hard as you possibly can and be involved and do things the right way. And that's the person that I am today.
Wayne, you grew up here in the Gainesville area. You went to Gainesville High School, and your career, you played football and basketball there and had a record-breaking career there. What positions did you play in football and basketball, and what was your favorite sport?
Well, believe it or not, it was something more than just football and basketball. I really enjoyed swimming more than anything else. I actually grew up as a young kid, I grew up in Delray Beach. And so we spent so much time at the ocean because we were only a quarter of a mile away down in Delray. And then when I moved to Gainesville, we were involved with a lot of recreation type activities. And so going to Gainesville High School, I started playing football and basketball and wanted to be a swimmer. But if I had to pick one of them, it absolutely would be football because that's the foundation that I've had the most success in life.
What events did you swim in the swim meets? What was your best stroke?
Oh, I was a butterfly specialist. I did the butterfly and the backstroke. And I tell you, the involvement that I had and the experience that I learned, I was actually a lifeguard at the Lincoln Pool back in the day. And what the most significant person who helped me out is the from where TB McPherson is in Southeast Gainesville. They have a pool there called the Mickle Pool. Andrew Mickle was a teacher at Lincoln High School years ago, and he put together a swim team. He put together a tennis team, and it was because of his involvement and influence, I was versatile and didn't just play basketball or just play football. So it was the butterfly and the backstroke. Those were my best two events.
We're speaking of Wayne Fields. If you want to send him a text, the number is on the Titan MR text line, 352-353-7465. Also, Wayne, weren't you really involved in playing some instruments and some orchestra at Gainesville High?
Well, my parents were both music teachers. My stepfather was Jerry C. Miller, and my mom was Geraldine Miller, and both of them were music teachers, and that was mandatory. I had to learn how to play some kind of instrument. From the piano, I didn't pick that up too good, and singing-wise, I didn't do that as well. And so I started off playing a viola, then from viola to cello, then from cello to string bass, and was actually in the Gainesville String Orchestra for 12 or 14 years or so. So had an opportunity to actually go to the University of Florida on a music scholarship, but chose football instead.
Speaking of the University of Florida, obviously that's where you went and played football, but I like to ask all athletes when they come on the show, what other schools offered you scholarships or you visited?
I visited the Vanderbilt University, and I actually committed to go to Vanderbilt University. But on our trip there, they actually told me that we want you not to commit and let everyone know about it. So I chose another school, which was Georgia Tech. A friend of mine who I really idolized was named Eddie McShann, and he was the starting quarterback there. And I chose not to go to Vanderbilt and gave Georgia Tech a look. And after going up there for a weekend, and I was there actually doing the Peach Bowl. And the Peach Bowl was played on a Saturday night that year back in 1971. And on the way back after the game, Eddie McShann and the starting running back, Greg Horn, we got on I-75 and started driving after the Peach Bowl about midnight. And while I was driving, I fell asleep, and they were asleep as well because they played in the game. And I actually ran off the road down into the median, over into oncoming traffic. And thank goodness it was about 1 a.m. and not that much traffic. So I pulled back into the median, and then they woke up and said, "What's going on?" And I told them I was asleep. And when I got back to Gainesville, I called Don Brown, and he was recruiting me from the University of Florida. And I said, "I think I'm going to come to the University of Florida." And that's how it all turned out.
Okay. Well, I read where you played multiple positions when you were a Gator here at the University of Florida. And why were you referred to as the Monster Man?
Well, from the technical side of it, when you are a defensive back and you're playing strong safety, I was put in that position, but I've never played defense in high school. And so when I went to the defensive side, a guy by the name of Ken Hatfield, who played on the national championship team from Arkansas with Jimmy Johnson and Jerry Jones, they moved me to defensive back because we had a guy by the name of Nat Moore, we had a guy by the name of Vince Kendricks and Lenny Lucas, and they played pretty well. So also we had Jimmy Dubose, and he was a great runner along with a couple other guys. But the Monster Man position had to do the following. Every play he had to go to the strong side, to the tight end side, and to the wide receiver side, and to the lead blocker side, or the pulling guard side. And every play you had to take on just and you were put in a disadvantage. And so if I had to say why they called it monster, they called it monster in my perspective because it was always a difficult task to try and take on. And so it was the strength. You had to stop the oncoming run or you had to go deep middle. And so I was able to accomplish that. And that's why I called it monster. And they called it monster because they knew that you had a determining factor on the outcome of the game because you were involved in every major play.
Good stuff. Well, Tropical Smoothie Cafe has 2 Gainesville locations open for online orders and curbside service. Amazing healthy food and smoothies. And they deliver through Bite Squad and Uber Eats. We're speaking with Wayne Fields on the Titan MR hotline from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We got a text here from Bill. He wants to know, Wayne, what was your most memorable moment as a Gator?
Well, Bill, I tell you, I had some very good memorable moments. But one of the memorable moments that stands out the most was when we played Alabama. It was my freshman year. And I was on the sideline most of the game. Nat Moore had a great game in 1972 when Florida, we actually went to Tuscaloosa and we had to play the Bear. And I was in complete awe. I was a freshman and just standing on the sideline hoping that maybe I could get in the game. But it was in the fourth quarter, and Alvin Butler played in front of me, and he was playing strong safety and monster man, and he got hurt. And it was only about 5 minutes or so left in the game, and Coach Hatfield looked at me and said, Fields, get in the game. And we were on our own 5-yard line. Alabama had the ball, and I had to line up against a guy by the name of John Hanna. Of course, John Hanna was a 13-year pro, first team every year. And at the snap of the ball, I closed my eyes. I had no idea what was going on. When I opened my eyes, I was 10 yards deep into the end zone, and they scored, of course. And Hannah was right on top of me. And he looked at me and said, welcome to the SEC, rookie. And from that point on, I dedicated myself to never, ever being in a situation like that again. And it never happened again.
Wayne, I've heard that Doug Dickey should have played you at quarterback. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, my thoughts are, thank goodness he didn't. That's what my thought is. Mainly because we had Jimmy Fisher, who was a second team at that time. And look, we had David Bowden, Chan Gailey, and in addition, the man, Don Gaffney. And playing Monster Man for the University of Florida, for me, was a dream come true. First of all, just being out there. And so if he had put me at quarterback, my throwing ability was not close to what Don Gaffney's throwing ability was. And so, it was the right position, the right change. And if I had gone to quarterback, it would have been from a running standpoint. So thank goodness it didn't happen.
Wayne, Coach Spurrier's group, they have a reunion every year called the Silver 60s, and they've been doing it for many, many years. Does your group in the 70s, how often do y'all get together? Do y'all stay in touch with one another, you and your teammates?
Well, we haven't had anything officially that I'm aware of. They may have been meeting out there, but I talk to the players all the time because I get an opportunity to have access to them. I get phone numbers to do on my Gator Flashback show. That's what I do. I talk about the players, the coaches, the relatives, and also the games that we feature. And so I'm in contact with players from all time periods, the Silver 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and just as coming up this week, we have a number of players that we're doing on the best of Gator Flashback: Jack Youngblood, Charlie Pell, Lee McGriff. So we'll feature some players even that's a little bit closer to your time, Shane. Maybe we can get you on and do a good interview.
That would be great. Let people know, because I've heard here locally your Gator flashbacks. Let people that are we have people listening all over the state and all over the country on this podcast, how they can hear your Gator flashbacks.
Well, if they go to 98.1, and that's actually WRUF, the flagship station of the University of Florida, and they can also access it on Instagram. They can access it on YouTube, and it's on the Tailgate Show with Jeff Cardoza and Pat Dooley, and they do a very good job in covering all type of sports. As you know, right now, their show comes on at 4 p.m. Monday through Friday, and I usually come on with a 3-minute segment at about the bottom of the hour, right at 4:30. So it's a show that has, since August the 1st, we've never missed a week. We haven't missed a day, except if we get exempted with sports for a live game. But this time period right now, this has been a grind. It has been just something, and it's good for the shows like you have and like Gator Flashback, because people are accessible. They're home, players, coaches, and so we can actually get in contact with them. But I tell you, it's been a grind Monday through Friday, making sure that we have those shows on time, met by the deadline, and done right.
We're speaking with Wayne Fields, former Gator, here on the Titan MRI Hotline from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Talk a little bit about what it meant to get your degree from the University of Florida, Wayne.
Well, I had an opportunity to play for 3 years, and actually for 2.5 years. And I say it like that because I didn't start playing on a regular basis in a starting position until midway of my freshman year. And then after that, I led the team in interceptions, and my freshman year and in my sophomore year got more accustomed to the position. And then in my junior year, we go to the Sugar Bowl and had great success. I had 11 interceptions at that point. And then from there, I tore my knee up in spring practice. I was preseason All-American, preseason All-SEC, had great aspirations to go to the NFL, but it just didn't happen. I got drafted. I was the absolute last person drafted in 1976 in the NFL draft. And I went to the Pittsburgh Steelers, didn't make it, hadn't fully recuperated on my knee. And so I had to come back and go to school when I did not fulfill my dream as far as going and playing in the NFL. So I got my degree in broadcasting, got a minor in music, and started my life. And I've been blessed, very blessed, because it seemed as though everything that I'd done up to that point helped prepare me for what I'm doing today.
That's good stuff. We got a text here on the Titan MRI text line. It comes from Jackson. He says, Wayne has an amazing magazine that he produces that focuses on minorities in the Gainesville area. How did you come to start that?
Well, I was an advertising agency back in the early 90s, and found that there were numerous opportunities for small businesses, for minority businesses, if they were informed on exactly how to go about finding those opportunities with the city of Gainesville, with Alachua County, with the state of Florida, and even federal contracts that are available if you became certified. And that means that you would have to make sure that you have an occupational license, that you are certified as, for an example, a carpenter or an attorney or a construction manager or a plumber. And if you have that certification, then, and you apply with a different city entity or institution, be it city, state, or county, then you can get on a list. And so I decided to make businesses aware of government contracts. And then I also wanted to let government entities know of the reputable and certified businesses that were out there. And so we did, so far we've done 3 publications, and it's similar to the Yellow Pages, but we call it Minority Business Listings. And so we've had success getting ready to put out our 4th publication coming up in a couple of months. And thank goodness that normally we would have put this out in January. Had we done that, we would have missed this COVID-19, and we want to be a meaningful book. It's a hard copy of some 500 businesses last year. But this year we're going not only by way of a hard copy publication, but we're also going to do virtual online. And so anyone can simply go to www.mblisting.org and you can sign up, and we'll make sure that you get information on doing business. That's our thing, helping business do business.
Good stuff. You also have a company called Music Express Productions. What's that all about?
Well, that was a ways back. That's when we, back in the 70s, around 1979, I worked as just a street DJ. I call it a street DJ because we did mobile activities, and we had sound system. And after I got drafted and actually negotiated with my contract with Art Rooney, he gave me a small signing bonus. And from that, I bought some music equipment after I got back to Gainesville and started DJing at nightclubs. And I met a guy by the name of Bill Feinberg, and he took on the stage name of Wild Bill. And now also we got involved with Rodney Long, and Rodney Long, a longtime politician, city commissioner, mayor, county commissioner, and now he's running for House Representative. And his nickname was Sweet Deke the Love Charm. I was called the Night Rider, and together we formed the organization. And Music Express went on to be a radio station, nightclub that we had downtown, and the Music Express had a radio station called WONE 91.7, the best beat in town.
Good stuff. Wayne, we got a text here. It's a strange text, but maybe there's something to it. They didn't tell me who it's from. They said, ask Wayne, does he prefer Coke or Pepsi?
That's a no-brainer. I can't even mention the other name, so I'll just say Coke without a doubt. You know, I'm a family guy, and for 20 years I've been married to a beautiful lady, and that's Linda Castro, and now her last name is Fields. And she's been an executive with Coke for years. And so that's my tie-in.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, Lou says on the Titan MR text line, he wants to know who was the best offensive player that you played against while at Florida.
Well, you know, being in the SEC, you play against so many. But if I had to rank one, it would probably be Burt Jones from LSU at the quarterback position, running back position. I played against Chuck Muncie and also Chuck Foreman out of University of Miami. California was where Chuck Muncie played back in the day and went on and was all-pro running back for the San Diego Chargers. But there were just great moments. And since I mentioned the John Hanna player, you know, we had an opportunity to come back and play him at the University of Florida the following year. And man, Alabama, they were full platooned back then. I don't know if they have any restrictions on the number of scholarships they can have, but just so many great players and great experience. Best decision I ever made by going to the University of Florida and getting an opportunity to play at such an early age.
Wayne, when you, I like to ask a lot of old Gators, watching college football the last 5 to 10 years, what is the biggest difference from football now in college compared to when you played?
Well, the exposure that you get, the style of play is wide open. A lot of no huddles. That did not happen back when we played, unless it was the last 2 minutes of the game. And the exposure and the microscope that you're under at all times, I really can't even imagine how the players do it and how the coaches cope with it. And so accessibility by way of Instagram and Twitter and being able to have access to the players, the coaches, 24 hours a day. And so the style of the game, something that never changes, but the pace of the game is a lot faster. And so if I had to say one thing, that as a defensive player, we could use every part of our body to detain an offensive player. I mean, I could hit, push, use my elbow and got away with it. But now if you touch offensive player from the defensive standpoint, it's completely different. I mean, there was no spearing unless a player was laying down on the ground defenseless. But we could lead with our head, and it was not an issue whatsoever. And thank goodness, because the numerous times that I got a concussion, the other thing is, who cared at that point? If you didn't walk off the floor or walk off the court or walk off the field, then that was just part of the game. So it's a lot less physical from the standpoint of making contact, and you could get away a lot more. So it's an offensive player's game these days.
Another text here on the Titan MR text line from Leonard. Leonard wants to know, what do you think of Dan Mullen and what he's doing for the program right now?
Oh, come on. That's an easy question. Dan Mullen is doing a great job. He's taken away all of the stereotypes about issues that they've had. He's got players at all positions. He's been an ambassador. He's a player's coach. And Dan Mullen is doing a fantastic job, and the number of assistants that he has. And first that I'll recognize is Vernell Brown, who's player development. He's got a local appeal and contact and hand-on to what's happening in the city. He's got Alvin Butler from my era, who's also dealing with the players. He's got Kim Cephas Green, who works with the players and making sure that they have their academics all together. Dan Mullen has done a great job, and I'm glad to look forward to being able to see the Gators back playing on the field. I don't know if people will be in the stands, but for the Gators right now, listen, they've got Dan Mullen, they've got Coach Spurrier, ball coach, and everything's working right now, except the inability to be able to get on the field.
No doubt. Well, Wayne, anything else you want to let the Gator Nation know about Wayne Fields before we let you go?
I just would like to let everyone know that Shane Matthews is doing a great job. And from Mississippi, if I'm correct. Is that right?
Yes, sir. That is correct.
And that country twang, man, that you have is right on time. But
well, hey, man,
give yourself a theme if you don't mind, Shane. And if you would allow me before we go to simply give you one, a touch of a little DJ, if I can give that to you and take you into your commercial break.
That would be
Can
wonderful.
I do that?
Let's do it.
All right. Well, we're going to give props to our sponsors right now. And if the good Lord's willing and the creeks don't rise, come on back and part up with Shane Matthews in the morning. Next.
Time out.
I like it. Wayne, take care, buddy. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Shane. Appreciate it. Have a good one.
All right. We're going to take a time out after that.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills.
Let's give them something to cheer for now.
Our Gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security, small enough to serve you, large enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Peachland Dentistry, Gator Nation's #1 choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte and surrounding areas. Area Rug Masters, your #1 choice for rug cleaning. And Pound Hurt, preferred personal injury attorneys.
Our touchdown sponsors are Gator BTW, Campus USA Credit Union, Celebration Point Town Center, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, the Keys Grill and Piano Bar, UF Mover Guys,
The Digital Mortgage Guy,
Adams Ribs, Cloud9 Spa, Coldstone Creamery, Gator Dominoes.
Celebrate Primary Care, Center State Bank.
If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, you can visit our website, potupwithshane.com, and click on the advertise button or call Freddie Wiebe at 352-284-3733.
Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
He's looking, still looking. He's going for the end zone. He's got a touchdown.
Welcome back. Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security Systems Studios at Center State Bank. We put business first. We're the largest community bank in the state of Florida and understand that small businesses need a community business partner that they can rely on. Center State has 5 convenient Alachua County locations to serve you better. To learn more, visit centerstatebank.com. Center State Bank, member FDIC. We want to thank again Matt Murshel from the Orlando Sentinel, talking college football in the draft, and our man Wayne Fields, former Gator, just telling us what he's got going on right now. And he's got that great DJ voice, no doubt about it. Also, tomorrow we have a tremendous show for you. Former Gator Larry Kennedy, my teammate, number 3, one of the best defensive backs to ever play here, will join us. And also our media guest will be senior analyst Steve Palazzolo from Pro Football Focus, talking NFL draft. We'll get his thoughts on where he thinks these Gators that are draft eligible might be taken. Also, we want to thank again yesterday Jackie Spreads, who's brought to you by Peachland Dentistry, Gator Nation's #1 choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte and surrounding areas. His tremendous interview with Billy Donovan, his uncle, that was outstanding. We appreciate Billy spending some time with him. But like I said, tomorrow we want to thank again. I thought Wayne Field's interview was great. Great person doing great things here in the Gainesville community, and Matt Murshel. Tomorrow, Steve Palazzolo from Pro Football Focus and my man Larry Kennedy will join us. But that's pretty much going to be a wrap again. If you missed it, Coach Spurrier's 75th birthday was yesterday, and had some great tributes from media people all over the country. We want to wish him a healthy and happy birthday to the HBC. A guy that really means a lot to me. But that's pretty much going to do it for today. We appreciate you tuning in to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Be safe, folks. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care.